Good afternoon, Internet, or at least it is for me. I am One More Voice, and I'm here to chat about something that just recently happened, actually. I know I'm usually, a couple months behind the bandwagon, but that's because I just kind of like to talk about things. In general, and isn't that just what we all do? We all just enjoy chatting about random stuff with friends. Now, I don't know any of you, unless someone I know is watching this, obviously, but I just like talking about things. It's what I like to do. So, the thing I want to talk about, obviously, is the Florida beach law that just recently got passed. Now, Governor Rick Scott of the United States state of Florida, man, that's just kind of weird to say, honestly. But so Rick Scott basically just passed a bill into law that states that the beaches belong to whoever owns the building right next to them. Now, this, right off the bat, doesn't sound too strange right off the bat, because after all, if you own property, then that property should be yours to do with as you please. That is one of the things the government is supposed to do. It's supposed to enforce private property, meaning that if you have worked for something, or if you inherited it, or either way, for some odd reason, you have come to lawfully possess something, be it an object, a piece of land, or intellectual property, then it is yours to do with as you please, and people simply cannot take it from you. That's one of the things that governments do in order to maintain a society. And honestly, that's even in areas where governments have collapsed, there is still some rule of law, generally speaking, that what is yours is yours. Again, it's a very basic thing that most people can agree with. So, what happened? Well, apparently the people that own these, condos and everything like this, they weren't very happy with the people just walking all over their land in front of them. And honestly, I don't know if anyone's been down to a Florida beach before, but I have a couple of times, because spring break is a thing. Spring break is a thing. People like beaches, and I tend to get dragged along on trips when my friends are like, oh, hey, I want to go to the beach. And I'm like, no, I don't like the beach that much. I'm one of those guys that's terrified of water that I can't see through. I don't know what it is. I will swim all day in a pool. I will swim all day in water that I can see through. So lakes, rivers, that sort of stuff is fine by me. But the second I get into salt water that's really kind of brackish and I just can't see through it, every single time a piece of seaweed brushes up against my leg, I'm getting, I have this primal instinct, this primal fear that I'm in the middle of a Jaws film and that there's something about to grab me and pull me under. Anywho, and it's funny because, again, I've got some friends that are marine biologists and, I've studied a little bit myself just because I like reading about stuff. But I thought about, well, maybe I could just carry something sharp with me so if something grabs onto me, I can jab it. But unfortunately, sharks, I don't know if any of you know this, but sharks, many of them hunt by detecting an electromagnetic field that surrounds most living creatures, and funnily enough, metal objects. So if you're swimming around and you have a knife in your pocket, or, whatever counts as a pocket that we have on swim trunks, they will detect that, and they will think it's a fish, and they will go after it. So you're either unarmed or you're painting a target on your shorts, meaning you're inviting sharks to bite around crotch level. So, you know what? I don't like the beach. Never really liked the beach. Love swimming. I love swimming. Honestly, I really like playing volleyball. That's a lot of fun. I'll play in waist-deep water if we're playing, water football or something like that, but I don't like swimming. I don't like swimming in murky water. So enough of that tangent. Let's get back to the juicy law. The law. For anyone who's even remembers that film. So, basically, you are no longer allowed to walk on beaches that are in front of privately owned residents. You are no longer allowed to walk on beaches that are in front of hotels. You are no longer allowed to walk on beaches that are in front of condos. And here's the great thing, you are no longer allowed to walk on the beach in front of Governor Rick Scott's properties, because he actually owns quite a few properties. So he basically just passed a bill into law that says, get off my lawn, you poor people. More or less is basically what the bill is. Now, that seems very unfair and not very charitable, and I understand that it is not very fair and not very charitable, but then again, neither is this law. So I think turnabout is fair play. So, I'm going to tell you right now why I think this is such a problem. Because if you live in Florida, your tax dollars actually go to maintaining those beaches. I want you to digest that for a second. The reason that all beaches in Florida are supposed to be lawful public property is because the public pays for it. You see, that's one of the things that to me at least seems fair, that if you pay for something, that you should be able to access it. You should be able to use it if you pay for it. If it is a piece of inanimate property without a will of its own, like a stretch of beach, which is more or less just sand next to water, that you should be able to use it if you are paying money to maintain it and keep it clean and free of garbage and free of erosion. In fact, the Supreme Court agrees with us, because the Supreme Court made a ruling about this quite a few years ago, that if the public is paying for beaches maintenance, then the public should be able to access it. And this is why in Florida, anyone can just go to the beach. Now, granted, parking is probably going to be a pain in the ass, but you can always go to the beach. That's something that drives a lot of our tourism, too. People come from all over the world to go to Florida and use the beaches. So now, what's actually happening is that you really can't do that anymore, or at the very least, that's what the letter of the law says. Now, it's also illegal to do quite a few many things in this country, like go above the speed limit, or drink before you're 21, and we all know how those laws turn out. Again, I am not condoning that anyone break the law at any point in time. However, I am going to state that if the public does not agree with a law, then the public is probably not going to follow that law, unless you have law enforcement officers there at any or all given times to actually enforce it. And quite frankly, there aren't enough officers to do that. And again, our officers are already overworked all to hell. Even just following the most basic laws, like, don't steal or shoot anybody, our officers are already overburdened there. The good men and women of the police force already have enough on their plate without adding these dumb, insane laws that no one's going to follow. Now, insane is a stretch. It's not insane. It's just, I guess I could call it, if I were to characterize this law in any way, I would either say selfish or rude. Selfish, rude, or impractical would actually be a more fair way to characterize it. Now, how people are going to respond to this, these are my predictions. My predictions as to how people are going to respond to this "you can no longer walk on my property" law by Rick Scott is that people are roundly going to ignore this law, is how I see this playing out. I think people are going to do what they have always done, and they're going to plop down their umbrella and their blanket and their cooler filled with various drinks and ice outside of any given stretch of sand that they please, and then they're going to stay there for a couple of hours, either get a sunburn or a mild tan, and just enjoy the beach for a couple of hours, or an hour, depending. Some people can go to the beach and they spend all day at the beach. I think there's only one beach that I've ever been able to, just hang around all day and not be bored out of my mind, and that's probably Dog Beach, because dogs are great. I mean, really, dogs are great so long as they're not, starved or feral. Again, apologies to any Australian people watching this, but Those dingoes. Yeah, you see, that's the funny thing. Non-domesticated dogs can be pretty damn terrifying if, you don't know how to defend yourself from them. But so people are probably just going to flat out avoid this law. They're just going to ignore it. And if you start sending police officers down there to start arresting people on the beach, which very well might happen. Now, I don't know exactly what the penalty is. I think it might be a mild fine, but the point is that, are you just going to have police officers patrolling the beach constantly? Because this is a really minor offense. You're just going to have them driving up and down the beach? That's excellent. It's okay. So you're either going to have to do one of two things. You're either going to have to hire more police officers, which inflates the budget, or the police are going to have to hire more people, and they're going to have to cut other positions, or they're going to have to, and I really don't want this to happen, cut down on things like training or equipment for our officers. Officers have a difficult job enough. They need all the advantages that they can possibly get. Because police officers, like every other kind of person on the face of this planet, when tools and resources start getting pulled away from them, they get a little bit nervous. And when they get nervous, their judgment becomes impaired. So, with that wonderful little implication aside, you can either have judgmentally impaired police officers by basically strangling their equipment and training, or you can have fewer police officers actually doing jobs that they need to do, like keeping law and order, because a lot of them are just going to be driving up and down the beach honking horns at people, telling them to move their blankets, or beach towel, or umbrella, or whatever. The point is that you're going to have officers effectively wasting their time when they could be doing things that actually matter. Or you can just not enforce the law, and everybody will merely laugh at it, or look at it, and it'll just be another crack in the public trust of their governing body. That's already getting damaged enough. With the scandals that happen every single year, with all the information leaks, with all the, quite frankly, embarrassing, bizarre, and sometimes criminal things that we're finding in the emails and personal information, or public information, I should say, because they're all doing it on the public dollar. That's the problem with being a public figure. That's the problem with being a public servant. If you are a part of the governing body and you are being paid with the tax dollars of the people, then everything you do while getting paid by them is subject to their scrutiny and subject to their judgment. America is a country that was founded on the idea that the government exists to serve the people, not the other way around. And as somebody who has held government jobs before, I hold this very true. If you're working for the people and you're being paid by them, then you damn well show up sober, ready to work, and not looking to cheat them out of the public dime. Or in the case of our governors and senators, millions and millions of dollars, free healthcare, and a lot of swanky vacation homes. But then again, what can I expect when you vote on your own paycheck? Yeah, I mean, man, that must have been a difficult bill to pass. Does anyone not want... Oh, wait, hold on a second. I need to represent the United States government. Does anyone want to vote against raising our pay? Because I'm going to Thailand next weekend, and boy howdy, do I need some extra dosh. No? Okay, good. We'll get paid more, don't worry, we'll just take it from education, because seriously, them young kids suck anyways, and clearly none of it is the older people's fault. No, kids are supposed to come out of the womb as fully functional adults with no guidance from their elders. Now, give monies, please. There we go, that is my prediction of how the vote went on paychecks with the United States government. I can only imagine. But now, basically, Governor Rick Scott is pulling the get off my lawn line with a lot less machismo and charisma than Clint Eastwood did. Clint Eastwood. I gotta say this, man. You're awesome. You make great films. Even your older ones. Even your older ones that are a bit slow by today's standards, they're good. So, sorry, I'm coming off a long shift. So that was my little video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Oh, right, sorry, there's one more thing that I need to cover. So the exact letter of the law says that so long as you are standing on wet sand, that is public good. So basically, dry sand is private good. Wet sand, public good. Dry sand, private. Wet sand, public. Now it says wet sand, so that's a very interesting thing. You know, hold on a second. I'm going to get my public property creator. So, if anyone wishes to take a stroll down to Governor Rick Scott's place and pitch an umbrella on his private beach, yes, Governor Rick Scott now owns several private beaches that are paid for with the taxpayer dime. So, if you ever want to pitch up an umbrella on there, and obviously, since it's a governor's house, the police will be there immediately to kick you off the land, even if he hasn't been there in months. Why, officer, it appears as if this is public property. Okay. I do not know if that would actually work. The officer might get it, he might give you a chuckle, he or she might give you a chuckle, and then they're still going to ask you to leave. But, I was about to say, don't quote me on that, but that might hold up in court. Once again, I am not encouraging anyone to break the law. Don't do it. But, this is not breaking the law. This is following the law, to the best of my knowledge. Now, I'd have to read the law a little bit more carefully to see if wet sand isn't just a euphemism for something, but due to the exact nature of the wording, that would technically be legal. That so long as the sand is wet, it is public property. So therefore, after a rainstorm, everything is public property on the beach. That has been my little rant on this subject today. You all have a very nice day. To anyone who watches my videos, again, I honestly don't even expect it, but it's nice to just talk in front of the camera every now and again. You all have a good one.